CII, very, very shy at that point in time. But Alhamdulillah, when I see how you've grown over a period of time, Safeera, on the airwaves of CII, the work that you put in, the effort that you put into your show, and I know you put tremendous effort in your show and what you bring to your listeners and to the audience. Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala has truly blessed you with this wonderful gift where you are able to reach out to thousands on a daily basis, Safeera.
Jazakallah khair for inviting me. I feel very inadequate because there's so many people like yourself, and there's so many other better people that are more deserving to be honored in this particular slot. So I'm very, very humbled to be joining you on air, Uncle Inayet. I've been a fan of yours over the years, and yes, we've always had those debates and discussions when you were over at CII. It's really great to be here. It's really great to talk about the one thing in my life which is a great passion, and that is Islamic media. It's something that it's close to my heart. I feel so strongly about young people pursuing this particular path. And for me, again, I would not have been in the position I was had it not been for the opportunities that I was given by all the veteran presenters who paved the way for me. Uncle Ibrahim Gangat comes to mind very fondly right now, and who paved the way for me to be in this position that I am in. And I think if I had to leave any other legacy behind, it would be to coach and train and get more youngsters involved in Islamic media, because it is hard work, it's dedication. Sometimes it's those tears and blood, sweat and tears and frustration and behind the scenes that the listeners don't get to hear or see. But at the end of the day, I think it's amazing and it's very rewarding work that we do.
Yes, now let's start at the beginning, Safeera. Let's talk about this passion of yours, your passion to get into the media. Take us through some of those memories. What inspired
Sure.
you?
So last year, Brother Ponti told me to write this dedication to Uncle Ibrahim Gangat, and I actually went back, and it led to my path into Islamic media. So I was somebody who loved the news and I loved watching TV. And my parents decided one day to take the TV out of our house and replace it with a CRI receiver. And I hated it. I'll be honest with you. I was like, I hate this. I would never do this to my own kids. I thought it's like going to be lecture upon lecture upon lecture. And eventually we started warming to the idea of listening to CRI. And then I did a tour of the studios with my dad, and I pursued a career in journalism. I was always that person that did public speaking, who stood up in class and spoke very passionately about matters that, things that I cared about. And I pursued journalism at Rhodes University. And then I had to do these little internships, and it was a no-brainer. I was actually so shy and so reserved. My mother called Uncle Fari and asked if I could do my internship at CII. And I remember the first thing he told me is like, you want to be on radio, but your own mother had to call to organize your internship. But I was very shy. I was very reserved. I was very quiet. And just listening to all of you guys, the discussions in the studios, and it was something that it was almost like home to me. So I did my internships, and it's just a path that I've always been on. And there were opportunities where I could maybe go into mainstream media, but I didn't ever want to pursue that. I feel so strongly about being in Islamic media. And I think one of my biggest role models, as everybody knows, is of course Uncle Ibrahim Gangat. And he would encourage me and he would pursue me. Alhamdulillah, this year is my 10th year of doing the lifestyle program. And he encouraged me in those early days, because I was very, again, that reservation, and I was reserved and I didn't want to come out of my shell. And he encouraged me to talk about these different types of topics. And alhamdulillah, that led to the success. Alhamdulillah, of course, it's due to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on myself. And alhamdulillah, my show, it is where it is. But I have to say my path was paved by everybody else that came before me in Islamic media.
Now, obviously, you mentioned 10 years of a lifestyle show. And this is obviously a show that requires variety. You can't have basically the same topics, the same guests, the same issues that you need to discuss over and over again. But again, when one talks about lifestyle and one talks about Islamic lifestyle also, the definition is very, very broad. And it covers a lot of aspects. It covers many, many aspects. But also at the same time, it requires a lot of hard work to prepare for a lifestyle show. And I'm sure for you, Safeera, it's a lot of effort before you get behind that microphone. You put in a lot of effort to get to, presenting the show.
It is a lot of hard work. Sometimes you reach, I don't know if you're familiar, you reach like a wall and you think to yourself, I don't think I'm doing a good job. I don't think this topic is working. And then somebody will just message you out of the blue and they'll encourage you and say, no, you're doing a great job, continue. So my motto and my philosophy when I took over the program was always, what would I be interested in? What are the topics that I would, if I had to switch on the radio, what would I like to listen to? And that is always, the framework in which I start from. What interests me, and then I do research into those type of topics. And also, again, a very interesting quote I read a couple of years ago. It says, "You start getting to a road of success when you get out of your comfort zone." So sometimes even topics that I'm perhaps uncomfortable with personally, I feel like those are the topics that you need to research and discuss and present forward. And that's basically my thought process that goes through my mind. I'm working constantly. I'm always on my phone. I'm always writing notes. Sometimes I'm in the car and I send myself a voice note and I say, okay, you need to discuss this topic with this aspect and this aspect and this aspect. So I'm constantly working, constantly trying to bring fresh topics on air. But again, that's my main starting point. What would I be interested in listening in? And that's what I present to the listeners.
Now, obviously, you've got many memories in the last 10 years of producing your show. And obviously, some of them stand out more amongst others. And for me, let me be honest, the show that stands out for me was my very first show, which was a royal disaster on CII with Inayet hosted. And I'm sure, Safeera, we've been through this thing here.
Yes.
At the end of the day, when you've come out, it says, you know what, I know
Blunders.
I made a mess up. This was a royal mess up. And I don't know where to hide my head anymore.
Yes, I've had my fair share of that. One of those that come to mind is that I'm a very fast talker. And if I'm under pressure, I talk even faster. And I remember I did the first recipe program and I was flying through the recipes. Before, we never had this WhatsApp line where we would send the recipes. And I remember Hafiz Shamsheer got a few messages coming to the station manager's desk and saying, she needs to slow down. We don't even have time to write things down. So that comes to mind. I've made a lot of blunders over the years. It's a constant learning process, trying to improve on myself. And the one thing I've always told myself, as painful as criticism is, it's needed to grow and improve. So if somebody tells me or sends me a message and they say, this should not have been discussed, or you did a bad job here, instinctively you want to be defensive, but I don't do that. I curb myself and I say, what can I learn from this critical message? And my end of every Thursday also is, if you have any questions, comments, or criticisms, send them to me, because it's only going to be to the benefit of myself and my presenting style. But yeah, Uncle Inayet, I had a lot of blunders over the years.
Well, certainly, I think we all have. But Safeera, just looking at obviously each show and each program is unique. Each one has basically, it's a niche on its own. And in presenting and producing a show like yours as well, being part of a niche, you build up a rapport. You build up a rapport with your audience, with your listeners. And this is very, very important because, not everybody obviously would be interested in certain topics, but to make sure that you maintain an interest and you broaden your listenership and your audience as much as possible to cover as much as you can, so that you can maintain that interest and you can maintain that rapport with your audience. And when I talk of the audience, from all aspects, coming through the young, the old, so that you can keep each and everyone interested in your programs. How challenging is it for you?
It's a big challenge. I think the challenge is to not recycle topics, because I've been on air for so long. So in my brain at all times, there's 4 tabs open called Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's the 4 days I'm on air. And diversifying the topics within each day. So again, Monday is dealing a lot with mental health. Tuesdays are dealing with the listeners, and there I draw the inspiration from social media. What are people talking about? What do people want to talk about? Wednesdays are all about health and wellness, and Thursdays are dedicated to spirituality and human stories. So I feel for me, the process is easier when I categorize it. All 4 of these tabs are constantly open in my mind, and then it's just to put in the relevant topics. And I do admit, Uncle Inayet, I'm inspired by everything. I'm inspired by social media. I'm inspired by listening to radio myself, and it's just everything. That's where the process comes to kind of come up with the topics and try and present these type of topics. But there are challenges along the way. I will admit, of course, doing it for so long, sometimes you feel like you're redundant and you're saying the same things over and over. And that's when I think the feedback is very, very useful. And I am very, very partial to listeners allowing or sharing topics with me, and that's why I kept one of my Instagram pages open, and that's basically for anybody to come and say, okay, Safeera, perhaps talk about this on your radio show, or you need to see this perspective on this discussion you had. And I think that also freshens up the programming a lot for me.
Well, certainly, but also at the same time, Safeera, you being around for 10 years and with me being for quite a while as well, and we see how things have changed as far as media is concerned, Muslim media is concerned. And, we in that age now where social media is uppermost as well. It's all over, whether we're talking WhatsApp, Instagram, whatever it is, Facebook, and how all these social media platforms are being used as part and parcel of what we call mainstream media these days as well. So, this has obviously been very welcome, I think, for us because, in the old days, you relied on the good old telephone and, we wouldn't be able to do a show like this as we are doing at this point in time on StreamYard where we can see us talking to each other. So, all these things obviously has revolutionized media, but also at the same time, given you an opportunity to expand your horizons in other areas.
Definitely. Look, I still believe there's so much room for growth. Recently, Spotify said they're going to be doing live podcasts, which for me, in my mind, is radio. There is this emergence of radio. There's the emergence of podcasts are doing so well. The statistics constantly prove that, people are shifting towards listening to podcasts. So I think we can make this our niche. The world has become such that everybody has a platform at any time to say anything. And I think this is great for Islamic media because it gives us greater reach. What I did is my radio show, and then I took it onto Instagram. So it's a lot of work while I'm on air. It's like doing a Q&A on Instagram and then the radio show. But it's a great way, again, to open up a bigger audience to yourself. And hopefully this can establish Islamic media we can establish Islamic media in these type of spaces and then get those messages out there, because what we do, the work we do, the shows we produce across the board, doesn't matter which radio station it is, it's so relevant, it's so needed. These conversations are so needed. People are questioning mainstream media today. You did shows back in the day when we saw the failings of mainstream media. So alhamdulillah, I say alhamdulillah for technology and for these, what do they call it, chat rooms and podcasts. And I think it's really, really going to help us in Islamic media, all of these different platforms, inshallah.
Yes. Now, obviously, let's just talk about the role of women in Muslim media, because, I know during your time and during the time when I was at CII, we had dynamic personalities. We had yourself, we had people like Apa Shamila Marhuma, we had, Najma Kota, Julie Ali, who is with us now at Salaamedia. Now, these are women that have made their mark, and we know there are many right across the entire country, also on the other media platforms, alhamdulillah, that are doing exceptionally well. And just to look at, your role as a woman and how you can actually make this contribution, how you can make an impact, Safeera, being a woman in Islamic media.
I think just doing what I do, again, I have to mention it's all these women that came before me. I've worked with all of them, all the names that you've mentioned, Mu'allima Shamila, Auntie Julie, Najma. There's so many fantastic women. I've learned my presenting style is a culmination of everything that I've learned from all of them, either producing or co-hosting programs with them, or spearheading a broadcast with them. And I just think just being there, being present, always being on these radio stations and having our radio shows and supporting each other. We are such a small team in Islamic media. And I don't ever see any other radio presenter as competition. I just celebrate the fact that we all have these platforms, we all have these wonderful programs, and hopefully, inshallah, it can inspire a whole generation that will also be equally inspired by us to have their own shows, start their own podcasts, and to join Islamic radio stations, inshallah.
Well, certainly, your dream at the end of the day, obviously, as you mentioned right at the outset, is to grow Islamic media
Yeah,
through your experience, through what you have learned over the last 10 years to impart that knowledge and to grow Islamic media even further, because this is exactly what is needed. In fact, when one
Jay.
looks at a media right across the entire world, and you mentioned earlier on in terms of going against mainstream media, and this is what we've done, provided the
Mm-hmm.
alternative over a period of time. And we know what mainstream media has been all about. It's been about sensation, being sensational. And at the end of the day, one cannot even believe mainstream media these days. We hear of embedded journalism, all these type of things. And at the end of the day, as Muslim media, we have got this huge role. It is an amanat, it is a trust as well. That is, to report, firstly, to provide information, but also to report on what is haq and the truth without compromising our principles as Muslims. And we know that when it comes to mainstream media as well, there is just so much that one cannot believe. One needs to read between the lines when one looks at mainstream media, when one looks at print media as well these days. But Muslim media, upfront, one needs to be open, one needs to be honest, and one needs to be truthful.
Jay.
Right,
Absolutely. I,
Safeera.
Jay, I concur with
No,
all of your sentiments
continue.
out there.
Yes, Safira, just where you are at this point in time, any other ambitions that you have?
I would like to start my podcast. I've actually had it on the back burner for the last year. Um, my family is going to be shouting me because every month I'm like, okay, this is the month I'm starting it. This is the month I'm starting it. Yeah, I think just continuing telling people stories. I think human stories, reaching out to people out there, putting a spotlight on the important topics, especially the topic of mental health, which I think is we in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, but another equally huge pandemic affecting our communities is mental health, and having these frank conversations and being bold and being brave and just doing what we're doing, inshallah, until forever, hopefully, until Allah Ta'ala calls us back home. But this is my mission to just keep doing this work that we're doing. It's not the easiest, Uncle Inayet. It's difficult. You get frustrated. But with the du'as of our listeners always, we'll soar to greater heights, inshallah.
Well, inshallah, continue
I
being
mean,
courageous, continue being brave, continue being bold, as you've always been, continue being inspirational, Safira. I must say
inshallah.
it's been an absolute pleasure for me personally to do this tribute with you as we pay tribute to our Muslim broadcasters and Muslim journalists during this Iftar Drive program. And Alhamdulillah, this is one that's going to go down memory lane, Alhamdulillah, having the opportunity of paying tribute to you. All the best to you, inshallah. Enjoy all the best of this month of Ramadan as well to you, your
Ameen.
loved ones, your family as well. And in terms of your broadcasting career, obviously the sky is the limit, and inshallah you will
Ameen.
just go higher and higher and higher,
Ameen.
inshallah. Obviously you have your head in the right space, your intention, alhamdulillah, is very very clear. And with this clean intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept, Allah reward all
Ameen.
your efforts over the years as well, Safira.
I mean, Jazakallah khair for joining, for allowing me to be a part of your show. I'm so honored. I still feel so inadequate to be on this particular segment. Muslim broadcasters. I think I've been listening to the series. I actually listened to them, and I really think I don't know if how I deserve this honor to be joining you on the show. But from the bottom of my heart, Jazakallah khair for inviting me. Ramadan Mubarak to you, Uncle Inayet, your family, and the whole Salaamedia team.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Which brings us straight on to 5 p.m. And that was Safeera Kaka this afternoon, paying tribute to our Muslim broadcasters, season 2 on Salaamedia. And this is going to be right throughout the month of Ramadan. We come back and we're going to be taking a look at the local story. We're taking a look at bird flu, and we're talking with the Poultry Association of South Africa. We also will be having our Nasiha coming through with Maulana Ubaidullah Boja's.